Yeah, John and me, we were really close. I was lucky. I am blessed to be here today because I was born between Stephen and Paul, who both didn't see their 16th birthday. They both died of muscular dystrophy. So I am very blessed to be alive. John was my oldest brother. John was my last brother I had before this terrible disaster what's happened here in Liverpool. So as you can see, I'm clinging to John even there. We were so close. Like I say, brothers being brothers, siblings, we had our rivalries, but we played in groups together and we were very, very close. Lost my mum the 22nd of March 2019. Yeah, my mum died. Alzheimer's disease. She'd had a fall and tragically lost my mum. I was absolutely devastated because I'd already lost my two brothers. Then I lost my mum. And the only person who was ever there for me was John. John gave me comfort after my mum died, right up until he died 14 months later. John died at Aintree Hospital, Liverpool, the 5th of May 2020. The circumstances, I don't know, but it was a terrible experience and I'm still grief-stricken. 5 years, it's more or less 5 years, coming up to 5 years to the day since he went in hospital. But the lockdown was the beginning of the end. Now, John had such respect and trust in the NHS. And as the lockdown happened, John rang me up and said, "Tony, I'm not feeling so good." I said, "Johnny, all right?" I said, "Do you want me to bring you a bottle of brandy? Have a bottle of brandy." "Tony, we're under lockdown. Don't come near." Now, once again, he's my hero. He was even protecting me during the lockdown. He sacrificed his life, basically, not wanting anyone to go near him. And what happened with John is, over the time, he was getting worse and I was speaking to him. He said, I've rang an hospital, I've rang for an ambulance. Waited over a week for an ambulance, John did. But the significance is, in the meantime, up to when the ambulance did come. Because what happened is he was getting advice from the NHS helpline. The NHS helpline, I believe, misdiagnosed John's illness. They told John under no circumstances to go outside the door. We were under lockdown. They told John to go to bed, shut the windows and shut the curtains and self-isolate. John took this advice. I believe that John had a water infection. Looking back now, I believe he had a water infection. The reason that I'm telling you that I believe John had a water infection is the penultimate time I talked to John on the phone. John rang me up, and he was always my big tough brother, John. John rang me up. He was confused, agitated, scared and persecuted, and he was saying, "Tony, I don't know who I am. I've lost my mind. I don't know who I am." And it just was not John. It wasn't in John's character. And he was screaming. I said, "John, let me come and see." "No, that was one thing. No, don't come near. We're under lockdown. Don't come near." But the confusion, it was just what... And I said, John, listen, I said, I'm the one that suffers from my anxiety. And I know that your mind's your best friend or your worst enemy. Your mind is your best friend or your worst enemy, John. Come on, we'll get through this. And I sent him a video of Eckhart Tolle, The Power of Now, to try and get him through that night. In the meantime, I'd spoken on the phone to Laura, his daughter, his youngest daughter, from his second marriage. And I said, Laura, your dad, you've got to try and get round there. Just go out. She said, I'm going to go outside and take him some food. The next day, Laura went to John's and she couldn't get no answer. Laura is ringing me up, hysterical. My dad's not opening the door. My dad's not opening the door. What shall I do? Eventually, John opened the door. She said, he's opened the door. I've given him some food. I'm not going in. And then she got him an ambulance. I said, we'll have to get him to hospital, Laura. You know, on the phone, we'll have to get him to hospital. So we got John an ambulance. My biggest regret. The next day, I rang John's number up. And this was the last time I spoke to John. I rang John's number up, he answered, and he was very, very weak and distant. And I just said, John, thank God I thought I'd lost you. Thank God. I thought I'd lost you. I said, you promised me you're going to fight this. He said, I'll fight it. I said, I'll fight it, Tony, it'll do the best. And I said to him, the last words I said to him, I told him I loved him. I said, John, I know we've had our ups and downs and families are difficult and all that. I said, but you're my brother. And I can't afford to lose you. I don't want it. You'll fight this, won't you? He said, Tony, I'll fight it. That was the last time I spoke to him. On his phone, his mobile phone that we still haven't got back. We haven't got his property back. We haven't got his mobile phone. We've got nothing. That was the last time I spoke to him. I told him I loved him. Moving on now to me communication with the hospital. The hospital said, John's the strongest on the ward. If he gets through the next 48 hours, the prognosis is good. Okay. I know you'll do your best because John's got faith in you. We've got faith in you. And I've spoken to the male nurse. I cannot remember his name. After the 48 hours, I'd spoken to him again. I said, the ball's in your court now, you know. I said, because you told me. If he gets through the next 48 hours, his chances are good. I'm looking for you to perform with the trust and the faith that my brother John has put in into the hospital. We'll do our best, Mr. Jefferies. We'll do our best, you know, and can't make any promises. That kind of stuff, you know. We don't know. We'll just have to see. Anyway, moving on. As like I say, we was told he was the strongest on the ward. Then the next thing, we're inducing him into a coma. You induced him into a coma, yeah, it's for the best. We're inducing him into a coma and we're going to give him a trachea. Is it something, a tracheostomy or something? We're going to induce him into a coma. Then the next thing, they induced him into a coma. They put him on a ventilator without any family consent. They induced John into a coma. I don't know what drugs that they give him. I don't know. This is why I would call for an inquest into everyone who is being placed on one of these ventilators. because they induced him into a coma. They put him on a ventilator without family consent. Then they decided to enforce a do not resuscitate policy. I said I want to come and see him. Mr. Jefferies, we're under lockdown. If you come anywhere near the hospital, we'll have no choice but to have you arrested. So what they did is John placed his disgust, faith and love in the NHS. They induced him into a coma without family consent. They put him on a ventilator, a ventilator without family consent. Then they induced a do not resuscitate policy without any consent. And even John's consent would not be consensual because he was in no mental state to give consent because he was confused. I've spoken to people about this. Everyone seems to believe that John's had the water infection and he's been misdiagnosed and he's been placed on a ventilator without any family consent. Couldn't get no response, so just told you not next to kin, you're only the brother. In John's family, John's got 7 children. There was conflict on who was the next of kin. So there was lots of confusion. All I know is my brother, they took away my brother's life. I know there's great people that do great work in the NHS. I have not got a downer on people who work in the NHS. There's lots of dedicated and committed people that do their work. They follow orders, they follow instructions, they follow directives. I would like to request who made the decisions, because John's daughter rang me up hysterical saying they've had a committee meeting, and they've decided not to resuscitate him. They'd had a meeting at Aintree Hospital and decided not to resuscitate John. They decided not to resuscitate John. They'd had a meeting. Who chaired that meeting? Why did this happen? Why was John placed on a ventilator? Why was a coma induced without family consent? Who made these decisions? Who? All I can call, if we want to win, I would love to see the NHS getting its trust back, which it deserved pre all this. The only way that we can restore any trust in the NHS is to have an inquest for everyone who died under these very strange circumstances. I'm not accusing anyone. I'm not pointing the blame at anyone. I just believe as someone who's lost his only brother. I couldn't afford to lose John. I've already lost all my family, me mum, me brothers. I would just like to know who made the decisions, why, and I would call for an inquest for everybody who was put on a ventilator. That's all I can say. And all I can say to the people that made these decisions or give these directives, God forgive them, for they know not what they've done. They never know what they've done. That's all I've got. Jacqui, that's all I can say, really.
Are you able to tell us a bit about the day he died? When you found out that he died?
I knew he died before they switched him off. They told me they were switching him off.
There was nothing you could do? They just made...
I was just told to stay away. I know that there was 2 of John's children that were allowed to go in. But then when Laura rang up and said he's gone, I've never been the same since. I'm lost. I am absolutely broken-hearted. And the other problem is that it's created as my relationships with everyone suffered. My relationships with everyone suffered. I try to be strong. I carry on. I pick myself up. I carry on. Because my mum, I follow my mum's influence. She lost 2 children at Alderey Hospital. I went back there to be a cleaner. That's how strong and how much of a strong, hard-working my mother was. Even when my mum died, the DWP came after my mum, searching for what bit of money she had, because she died of Alzheimer's. They said she'd been overpaid. My mum was a good woman. My brother was a good woman. We were a good family, but they've all gone now. And I feel I've just got to speak up for them, because they can't speak up for themselves. And if our John was here and I wasn't, he'd be asking questions as well. And I would also like to know what happened to his property. What happened to his phone? Where's his mobile phone? Where's his property? Why didn't we get his property back? When I tried to ask questions, it was fobbed off. You're not his next of kin. So that's all I can say about it.
What did it say on his death certificate?
COVID-19. I believe he died of a water infection and nefarious. There's been a stream of very, very... I don't want to use the word nefarious, but there's been a string of events which were very unfortunate for John. He was misdiagnosed with a water infection because he was confused. And I know he was in no mental state to give permission to induce a coma, to put him on a ventilator. He was in no mental state. I believe he had a water infection and they've put him on a ventilator. And I'm just wondering whether they get funding for these ventilators. Who makes the decisions? Who makes the decisions to put these people on these ventilators? Who benefits?
They stopped using the ventilators in January 21 because they realised they were killing people. Because if you're put on a ventilator, you've got less than 20% chance of surviving a ventilator. They know that. How old was he when he died?
When John died, I think he was 65. His birthday was the 24th of September 1950, I think it's 1956. So he's the age I am now when he died. He's gone 5 years, more or less to the day now, 5 years he was in hospital fighting for his life, but in an induced coma and on a ventilator. So I don't know, but it's just been... my relationships with everyone suffer because people don't know how I feel, and I end up getting in arguments with people. I get called a conspiracy theorist, I get called a broken, emotional person, but I've lost my brother and I've never got no answers. I'd just like to know who made the decisions and why, and who benefited.
And have his children tried to find out anything?
His children have done their best and done their bit, but they're all confused and I think possibly afraid.
And did you ever see his medical records?
No.
Did anyone try and apply for them or get them?
Not to my knowledge, no.
No, because then you would see what drugs he was given and stuff. To get people onto ventilators, they have to put them on a sedative like midazolam or something like that. So it's possible he would have been given a sedative. And in fact, Matt Hancock said that's why they ordered the extra amounts of midazolam, because they were needing to...
I have been informed that it matches the exact date that they were given out in Liverpool. It's like I say, my brother John died the 5th of May 2020 during the lockdown at Aintree Hospital, Liverpool. I just don't know. I know there's lots of brilliant people who work in hospitals, but when I was trying to get the answers at the time, I'm looking at the news. Then you're looking at the internet, Jacqui, and you see all these dancers, choreographed dancers, and doctors and nurses with masks on, going like this, pretending they're going on going boats and doing choreographed dancing. And you're going, what's going on? I thought that they were, you know, and I wonder, well, can I ask you another question as a journalist, Jacqui? How many people have died of COVID-19 who didn't go to hospital?
None, that I know of. No one died at home. They all died in hospitals or care homes. A couple maybe. I mean, this isn't relevant to your story, but my dad was killed at home by paramedics. But I thought if they put COVID-19 on his death certificate, I don't know if that can happen, but they put lies on his death certificate.
Because it seems that only people that went to hospital died of COVID-19. Can I ask you again? Sorry, beg your pardon, your name again?
Richie.
Richie. Richie, how many people do you know who died of COVID-19 who didn't go to hospital?
Yeah, not many. I've tried to look at the statistics, and they all died in care homes and hospitals.
Do you know anyone personally who died of COVID-19 that didn't go?
I've asked that question many times on social media, and answers the same. Some people say, "Oh well, I had COVID and I managed to survive it, and my dad had it and he got over it as well." But they don't seem to know. there was a friend who said, oh yeah, my friend died of COVID-19, but he was put on a ventilator. And he was a young man as well, in his 50s, you know. So.
Yeah. Oh, John was fit, non-smoker. And like I say, just like a few weeks before he was playing that guitar, a few weeks before he was here, last time I spoke to John, he was here playing that guitar and there was nothing wrong with him. I suspect he had a water infection and he's been misdiagnosed by the health people.
And who are those people on those helplines? They're not, are they nurses? Are they doctors?
I don't know.
Or just call handlers with a list of things?
Yeah,
maybe.
because they just told them to isolate and shut the curtains. Like I say, I don't want to cause any trouble for anyone. I know lots of people that work for the NHS do great work, but to restore the trust that the public has in the NHS, there does need to be inquests into everyone that was put on ventilators, I would suggest. That's all I can call for. I don't want to be... I'm in too much pain to throw stones and to blame people. We need answers, that's it. That's all I can say.
Do you believe he was killed?
It looks that way, doesn't it? I can't say exactly he was killed. Well, he was killed. But what I want to know is who made the decisions, why were decisions made, and who benefited.
What do you think? Well, they put him down as a COVID statistic.
They put him down as a COVID statistic.
So that helps them in that it kind of supports the myth that there was a virus called COVID that people were dying from. So basically, anyone who died around that time, we know that a lot of the deaths were misattributed to COVID.
Yeah, I think all John needed was a course of antibiotics.
That's what I was going to say.
All he needed was a course of antibiotics, but he was advised by the NHS, which he loves so much, to self-isolate and to shut the windows and shut the curtains.
And the other thing is, obviously, this is all behind closed doors. He had no one to advocate for him. That's why we're calling the documentary that Richie's going to put together called Unseen, because these people were dying alone with no one with them. That's one of the biggest tragedies of all, I think.
Well, that's the way I feel about John, because how can you sign a do not resuscitate certificate for yourself if you've already been put unconscious? And if you've got a water infection, you are not... he wasn't himself last time. The penultimate time I spoke to him on the phone at his home, when he was at his home, he was confused. He wasn't like John was very, very, very clever man. He could put his mind to anything. He could do joinery. He could do electronics. He could do auto electronics. He could do everything. You know what I mean? And I always look. He's still my idol. Yeah. He's still my idol, but he's been took away. They took him away. Someone somewhere made the decisions. These politicians need to answer, because they took my brother away, and he was a healthy, skilled, decent, honest, hard-working man. And it was more or less to the date that they had his funeral that we couldn't attend to properly, that his pension come through, his state pension, for his pension for working for Scottish Power the day he died. He worked all his life and paid his taxes, and this is what's happened to my brother. I'll always love him, and he's walking by my side. That's it. That's all. I can't say any more, Jacqui. I hope it helps, because I wouldn't want anyone to go through what our John went through. I wouldn't want anyone to go through premature death, and I wouldn't want anyone to go through the bereavement, the grief and the confusion that I've gone through, because it's affected my relationships with everyone.
He's not the only victim, is he? The whole family are victims, especially his 7 children as well.
Well, it's been divisive as well, because everyone's got different views, and of course some people... I always say, and I'm not knocking anyone here because I love all John's family and his children, But I always say that justice is a myth because loyalty is a myth. People need to stick together and ask questions. That's all I've got to say.
Excellent.
Yeah, that's
Stop that there for
brilliant.
the
That's what